In our point of sale app, it's time to learn how to get actual information into the app. So we're going to be creating an alert dialog to add the information. All right, so first of all, we should talk a little bit about what dialogs are. And as you can probably guess here, you've used them before. They're just little windows that appear in front of the current screen. They basically take focus and they demand the attention of the user, right? So they're getting some input. Usually something that you need to do before you can continue, right? And I'll mention here that activities can get a dialogue theme, but probably not a good idea. You want the actual dialogue itself to pop up. A little bit easier in code and easier to do, just a little bit lighter weight. All right, so classes. The main class that we're going to be using are called alert dialogs, right? Alert dialogs are super flexible. So basically, they can manage buttons down at the bottom of the screen here. So you see we have the OK and the cancel button. You can have selectable items that we're going to play around with in a little bit. And they say here that you can construct pretty much most anything you might want in a dialogue, and it's what they suggest, right? So we're going to make heavy use of this right here. I will say that there are also some other dialogues that you can use if you have pretty specific tasks. So there's a date picker to be able to grab a date, time picker for a time of day, and there's a progress one. Easy enough to learn about these on your own if you need them for an app that you're making. You can even customize your own one if you really wanted to. All right, I found that I can use alert dialogues for pretty much everything, so I'm going to stop there after today. I guess this is the other thing. So this one right here is the date picker, as you probably guessed. So it's kind of nice. I have used that before as well, but I kind of like the calendar view here too. So that's where we're going to go today. All right. So where we're going to start is we're going to go ahead and rewire our floating action buttons so that instead it's gonna show a dialog. There's going to be a bunch of code that's going to go in here to show the dialog. So I'm going to put it into a little helper method here. We're just going to call this guy add item. All right, so jump back up to this guy up here. I don't need the toast anymore. Don't need to get a default item anymore, so that all goes away. And I will just call add item. It's going to complain because no such method yet exists. So we'll go ahead and create one. And let's see, never know where it's going to stick it. Sometimes it's pretty weird. It'll just stick it in the weirdest places. In fact, I didn't even see it show up here. So I'm just going to go ahead and make one. So down here at the bottom, it's a helper function. So private void add item. And the structure that we're going to use is to use what's called a dialog fragment, right? So let's play around with this. So I'm gonna make a dialog fragment. I never can think of a good name for this, and since it's local within this function, I just call it df for dialog fragment. And I'm gonna make an anonymous one right here. So it's gonna be a new dialog fragment, like so, and we'll override something in a minute. And then what we want to do is we want to show it. And to show a dialog fragment on the screen, you need a fragment manager and a tag. Fragment manager, there is one built into any activity. You can get a fragment manager, or in our case, we want the support library, so support fragment manager. And the tag probably doesn't matter so much right now what you use, but this is an add dialog, so I'm going to just put the word add here. And then the bulk of what we're going to do is we're going to override inside this guy on create dialog, like so. All right, so to do. All right, so the question is what's going to go in here, right? So when we click plus, calls into this guy, which is going to make our fragment here. That's going to be created in a certain way, and then we're going to show it on the screen. Okay, let's get the slides caught up here. So as far as things go, so this is our first use of fragments. Fragments are just a component that you can reuse that includes both something from the UI and in logic, kind of like an activity screen, but lighter weight, smaller. We'll play around with them in a future unit. We don't do them right in the beginning just because there is some coding overhead. but you do get some pretty neat flexibility. So we'll play around with them at some point. Turns out that dialog fragments are actually very similar to what old style dialogs were, and very easy to use. And the basic idea that we saw here is that we create a new dialog fragment class. We made ours anonymous, and we override on create dialog. And within that, we're going to use an alert dialog builder. And that's a little inner class that's kind of neat. And when we're doing that, there's going to be some on-click listeners for the built-in buttons that we'll play around with. And we'll show the fragment, right? So all stuff that we already stubbed in. All right, and there's the structure that you expected. I actually did use a tag this time rather than leaving it empty. All right, so the builder, all right, so there's a little nice little convenience here for making one of these guys is we're gonna construct a builder, and then we can call a bunch of setters on that guy, and once we set them all, then we call create, and that's gonna, this little factory method that's gonna create an alert dialog with all the settings that we supplied. So it's really, really nice. So what kind of things can we set here? So this is one from a different app that I've done in the past here. So maybe we have an icon that shows up a little warning. You can give it a title. You can give it a message as you want. And then you can give it, you know, this right here is an example of a positive button, one that just says okay. Rather than doing a message, we're going to do a view. You could also have a list of items. We'll look at that in a future lesson. Lots of things that you could do there. So the builder here, you notice that I sort of highlighted the custom views. We very much want a custom view because there's nothing out of the box that comes with this, of course. So we're going to have to specify what that view is. We specify views in layouts, as you can imagine. So let's plan this out now. All right, we should think about this. I actually have a solution on the next slide, but let's be thinking about what goes in here. Right. So what do we have? Looks like we have a bunch of things that are kind of aligned vertically here on the screen. Now it doesn't include the buttons; those are separate. But everything here I have looks like a text view, and then this right here is going to be a place for me to type, and that's what's called an edit text, right? So the edit text is really neat. We'll play around with that in a minute. This next line here, it turns out I was running out of room for my calendar view, so I chose to put these guys on the same line. So this is actually a horizontal linear layout on this next line that has a text view and an edit text. All right, so not too bad. One more text view that says delivery date, and then finally what I have in here is a calendar widget. All right, so overall structure, vertical linear layout with about 4 or 5 different items in it, one of which is a nested linear layout within here. So I always I'm torn. Do I just type it in from scratch, or do I give it to you to cut and paste? I'm going to type this one in only because it's a pretty early unit in this course. Later on, I'd say feel free to copy and paste old ones that you've done. And if you've already done a bunch of these in the past and you're taking the course anyway, feel free to go ahead and grab them from the next slide. Right. But like I say, I'm going to type this guy out. So I'm going to go into layout, and I want to make a new resource file. And this guy I'm going to call, just like the other ones were named activity main or whatever, I'm going to call this guy dialog add.xml. Root's going to be a linear layout. That's fine. And I'll click OK. And I don't care so much about this guy, so I'm just going to jump right into the view here. So I have it, and again, it's stubbed in a vertical orientation. So I will do this now. All right, so dialog main. What do we want in this guy? So I guess we can put in a text view in the top here. So there's my text view, and then I have an edit text. So let's grab that guy. Text fields, plain text. Go ahead and grab that. And then I want a linear layout. We'll see how this works here. Linear layout, and let's see if I can sneak a text view into that guy. Let's see if it actually takes it in there. And the edit text after it. Have a feeling it's not putting everything in there quite how I want, but let's go check. So linear layout, so it looks like these two guys didn't end up inside the linear layout. That's easy enough. Go ahead and grab those. I think you have to get pretty lucky for that to happen. And paste them in, reformat. All right, let's play around with what we got here. I had some settings that I played around with ahead of time, so we can kind of follow along with that. So first thing is this first one is just a label. It's nothing that I'm going to refer to in code, so I'm going to take out the ID for that. And its text here is going to be, let's see, so just what do you want to buy? What do you want to buy? All right, now that's interesting. You might think, do I have a string for that? Let's go find out whether I actually made that. Looks like I didn't, so it's a good opportunity for us to learn how to do this. I don't always remember everything that I need ahead of time. So if I take this guy and I hit Alt-Enter, all right, there's an option to extract a string resource. And this is going to save a lot of you. It saved me many times. We try to plan as best as we can, but we can't remember everything. So let's go ahead and extract a string resource for this guy. And we'll just say that this right here is the item name label text or something like that. I mean, it's a little bit verbose, but I think it'll work. All right, so that's our first one, and the size is probably fine. It's kind of small to see on this screen, but yeah, what do you want to buy? There it is. Our next thing that we're going to have is our edit text, and we are going to have to refer to this guy, and we're going to have a few different ones here. So I usually give my IDs. I usually name them with underscores. So I'm going to have an edit name. I'm going to have an edit quantity in a little bit here. Let's see, so let's think about this. So the text view could just wrap, be as small as possible. The edit text, I'm going to make the width be match parent, so it'll let me type on the whole line. The height is still fine to be wrap content. And what else am I going to want here? So edit text usually have a hint. So if it's blank, it'll tell you what will go in there. So I'm just going to put item name in that guy. And edit text, people also usually use an input type. And we see we have some different options here. So I have an input type. For this one, I think I want it to capitalize just one thing. So I'll cycle around. I saw it here somewhere. Here's the capitalization. So capitalize the first word in what I type. Will be fine. And reformat that guy. And there's my edit text. Linear layout. Moving on. Looks fine. It's already horizontal since that's the one I chose. And the text view that's inside it, again, is another label. I don't really care so much about it. And for this guy, I think I did actually give you a string for this. So string quantity, I think it was quantity start was what we used in there. And then it has an edit text as well. And we'll use the same naming conventions. I call the first one edit underscore name. So we'll call this edit underscore quantity. Width will match parent. The height will wrap content. Again, that looks pretty good. And layout gravity, it turns out I don't want there. That was a mistake when I went to pull that guy in. I want to give it a hint as well. So the hint on this guy is just going to be the number 1. So yeah, I don't know if I want that. So we'll say enter quantity. So we'll say number. That'll be good. And let's see, the input type on this one is going to be particularly helpful because there is one for numeric input, so it'll bring up the right kind of keyboard. So let's go ahead and grab that guy. And that's my linear layout. Underneath this, I need a couple more things. So I need another text view that's going to, let's see, its width will wrap, and we'll have the height. Actually, the height should also wrap, just like so. And it's text, and this is going to be for the date. So I'm going to check to see if I have one for that. It's just going to say delivery date. I have a format one. There it is. Date start is what we want. So go back here and string / date start. Looks great. And then the final thing that I want is a calendar view. Let's see. You can stub these in or not. This one was a little bit tricky for me when I did this here because I didn't get the height on it right. So the width is fine to match the parent. The layout height, you have to specify, and I specified 300. I probably don't need quite that much. Probably 250 would be fine, maybe even less. If you use the widget, if you do a drag and drop, it'll actually stub in something that I think is pretty nice here. So Android : and it's the show week number. I will just set that to false there. And finally, I'm going to need an ID for it. So Android ID, so I can again refer to it in code. So it'll be plus ID, and I'll call this guy here calendar view. Okay, I'll format that guy. Nothing is going to go within it, so I can compress the XML if I had a slash here, and reformat again. I'll just put it on the previous line. Let's take a look at what we got, see how we did. All right, so there we go. We have this guy. Looks pretty good. In fact, I even probably have some extra room here, but that's what I want. I don't want my my dialog to get too huge. All right, very good. Let's go ahead and wire this guy back up in main activity, and then we'll go from there. So if I want to get this view, so I want to create a view first of all, and I want to basically inflate this guy. So basically turn it into code. So I need to get a layout inflator, and I can call inflate on that, and it's going to ask for a resource, which is my r.layout.dialog add, and it's going to ask for something to attach it to, and I'm just going to choose to use null for nothing. This view is going to go within our builder. So alert dialog dot builder, make a builder, and I need to construct a new one. So alert dialog dot builder, and that takes the context. The context is the outer activity, so I could do main activity dot this. Dialogs also let me to, or fragments I should say, let me get the activity that they're associated with. So that's also a neat way to do that, just to see what your options are. And I'm going to take this builder, and I'm going to set the view to be the view that I passed in here. That's probably it for this video. I know we're right in the middle of the code here, but it took us a long time to do that, and it's probably time for a short break. So we'll talk to you in a bit.